A three-time Grand Slam champion and an 18-year-old wildcard are facing off for the Indian World's title. I'm here to preview and predict Angelique Kerber's clash with Bianca Andreescu. Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn the notifications on if you haven't done so already, because who knows when I'm next going to upload. We're here again at the Indian Wells final. For the WTA Tour, it's a premier mandatory event, and it's the most prestigious event, or acknowledged as the most prestigious event, outside of the 4 Grand Slams and the WTA finals. So it's big business, and last year it was 20-year-olds Naomi Osaka and Daria Kasatkina in the final. This year, 2 brand new finalists, and while they are at opposite ends of the experience scale, for both of these women it's their maiden premier mandatory final appearance, which is kind of crazy given that Angelique Kerber is a 3-time Grand Slam champion, but it does highlight the fact that for many years people didn't think she would be any more than a consistent top 10 player. Her maiden Grand Slam title kind of came out of nowhere in 2016, and from there she's performed well at the major stages but hasn't won a title at this level yet. Kerber is the number 8 seed in the desert, and she will be taking on a player who is not just non-seeded but a wild card at the event. 18-year-old Bianca Andreescu of Canada has been making waves on the circuit since January. The teenager played the vast majority of her tournaments last season on the ITF circuit, which is the tier below WTA. She wasn't even playing WTA qualifying for the lowest level of events, international events. Yet she stormed into 2019, qualifying in Auckland and going all the way to the final, where she lost to Julia Gerges, the number 2 seed. A mere 2 months later, she is in one of the biggest finals on tour. Now we're going to take a look at how she got there, how Angelique Kerber got there, and which of these 2 women is most likely to win this final. Let's start by looking at Andreescu. You couldn't easily have predicted this run coming from Andreescu by her first round match. She played Irina Camelia Begu, who's been seeded at Grand Slams before, lost the first set in a tiebreak but came through in 3 sets, 6-7, 6-3, 6-3. Then she showed that she's still a force to be reckoned with her 6-2, 6-2 defeat of number 32 seed Dominika Cibulkova, who has been in a Grand Slam final before, who has troubled the top players. Not in the form she once was, Cibulkova, but it was a confidence-boosting victory, and Andreescu went on to dismiss Stephanie Vergelli 6-1, 6-2 in equally simple fashion. Qiang Wang, the number 18 seed, was playing her best tennis at the culmination of last season, her slick shots really troubling the elite, but once again Andreescu threw in straight sets 7-5, 6-2, and then the biggest win of her tournament so far, a 6-love, 6-1 thrashing of number 20 seed Garbiñe Muguruza. This was not a case of Muguruza just playing badly. Andreescu outplayed her, she out-hit her, she outsmarted her, and Muguruza's weapons were made to look blunted by this teenager. This is not to say that Muguruza, the 2-time Grand Slam champion, is not a better player. Andreescu just had by far the better day. She was reading her opponent's ball so well, absorbing the pace, redirecting, and using every shot in her vast repertoire. And just to prove that that was no flash in the pan, Andreescu fought past number 6 seed Elina Svitolina 6-3, 2-6, 6-4 to make this final. Svitolina was tricky business. She is super solid from all areas of the court. She can hit with consistent pace off the forehand and the backhand. She can move forward and do damage at the net. Andreescu was struggling to land her first serves as the match went on. She had opportunities to break for the match, then she struggled to serve out the match, but she stayed in the moment, had impressive mentality and grit to come through. That match demonstrated, I feel, the vast range of what Andreescu can do. She can hit really well from the baseline, and what she has is another level of pace for when she hits the winner. She can rally with decent pace. She was matching Svitolina from the baseline, and yet she was still able to find that extra level of firepower to hit the winner, which isn't something you see from all the players on tour. A lot of them are hitting as hard as they can and hoping to open up the court in order to hit the winner at the same pace. Andreescu does get that extra burst of pace on the ball. She's got a lot of variation, she anticipates well, she's very consistent off the backhand, and what I notice impressively about Andreescu's backhand is the way she hits the off backhand. We talk more about the off forehand, which is what is hit more often. The off forehand is when the ball is not hit forwards or in the direction of the follow through, so in that direction for me, but the other way. So a player will sidestep round and send the ball off in the other direction, creating the off forehand. No one really uses the term off backhand, but I think a lot of players don't use that shot because it's tricky. It's easier to hit the ball straight in front or to go cross court or to the side using the direction of the follow through. What Andreescu can do really well, including on the returns, is do the off backhand, so send the ball across the court in the direction you wouldn't expect. This caught Svitolina off guard a few times and she wasn't able to back up her serve because Andreescu was placing her next ball so well. She's quicker around the court than you would expect, she always seems to be dialed in, and when she gets annoyed with herself she's able to shrug it off and move on or channel that into her game. The focus that this teenager shows, her ability to stay in the moment even against the biggest players on the biggest stages, is proving incredibly impressive, and I think she'll have a decent shot in the final. And now a look at Angelique Kerber, and again I say it's crazy to think that she's not played in a Premier Mandatory final before because she's now such an accomplished player. After a first round bye, Kerber started her campaign in more impressive fashion than her upcoming opponent. She took on Yulia Putintseva in the first round, and Putintseva, despite her small height, is able to trouble the top players. She had Serena Williams on the ropes once before, but the number 8 seed had little difficulty in that clash, 6-love, 6-2. Natalia Vikliantseva is a Russian on the rise, and Kerber dropped the first set to the younger player, but came through 3-6, 6-1, 6-3, a good recovery there. A fourth round clash with Arina Sabalenka was going to be tough. There are a lot of eyes on the number 9 seed at present. She's now made her top 10 debut. She's been proving herself over the past 12 months. After winning the first set 6-1, Kerber had a little stumble there, but was able to regroup to come through in 3 sets. Then a very impressive victory over Venus Williams, who is in great form, had taken Petra Kvitova out of the tournament after being a set and a double breakdown. Venus seemed to be in a bit of physical discomfort in that match, but she was still changing up her tactics, bringing a different kind of game to Kerber than she usually would, stripping the pace, looping the forehands, doing things differently, and Kerber was still able to adjust and come through that match 7-6, 6-3, very entertaining tennis. And even though Venus was trying so many different things, Kerber's control didn't relent, she didn't react to the rhythm of the match changing, it was just a very professional performance from the German. But her follow-up win over Belinda Bencic, the number 23 seed, might have been just as impressive because Bencic was on a 10-match winning streak. She'd won the Dubai Tennis Championships at the end of February. She was beginning to find the form again that's taken her into the top 10. She hits a very clean ball and redirects very well in a similar way to Andreescu. Bencic had taken Naomi Osaka, the defending champion and world number 1, out with minimal difficulty, 6-3, 6-1, and was looking in decent form herself after a win over Karolina Pliskova in the quarterfinals. But Kerber, whose year so far has not been as impressive as Bencic's, came through in straight sets, 6-4, 6-2, and that's a big confidence boost going into this final, where for a lot of people she will be expected to win. Kerber and Andreescu have never faced off before, which is to be expected given that Andreescu spent much of the past few years on the ITF circuit. But it should be a great matchup, both players capable of a lot of variety, able to mix it up and hit with pace, whether that's because of their absorbing their opponents or generating it themselves. I've been particularly impressed with the way Andreescu is able to stay in the moment and handle things mentally. She hasn't flinched at the idea of being this deep in a tournament. She's been emotional after matches, but during the competition she's been focused just on herself, her opponent, the ball and the court. Kerber, meanwhile, she hasn't been on the stage before, as we've said, but she's been on bigger stages and handled it very impressively. Twice she's beaten Serena Williams in a Grand Slam final, and when she beat her in the Wimbledon final, that match did not last long. While she's not played as many tournaments, I would say Andreescu has had the more impressive year so far. Obviously she started with that final in Auckland. She beat Venus Williams and Caroline Wozniacki back-to-back on the way to that final. She qualified for and reached the second round of the Australian Open and reached another semi-final at the Mexican Open. That was in Acapulco, where she beat seeded players Mihaela Buzarnescu and Zhang on the way to losing to the eventual champion Sofia Kenin. Kerber had an unfortunate start to the year, really. She drew Petra Kvitova, the Australian Open finalist, in the second round of Sydney and lost that match. She looked really convincing at the start of the Australian Open, winning her matches in straight sets, but then went down 6-love, 6-2 to eventual semi-finalist Danielle Collins. She reached the semi-finals in Qatar, where she lost to Elise Mertens in 3 sets, but she only won 1 match at her next tournament. That was in Dubai, where she beat Dalila Jakupovic before falling to Su Wei Shea in 3 sets. What I find interesting about her loss to Shea is that Shea is a player who likes to mix things up, who has a lot of variety in her game. Andreescu is a player who hits with more power and is willing to go toe-to-toe from the baseline a bit more, but they do share a slight similarity in that respect. They play the drop shot and the drop volley incredibly well. Andreescu was on the scene a little bit a couple of years ago. I've been aware of her for 2 or 3 years, but hadn't really watched her properly until this year. All her key victories have come this year over Venus Williams, Caroline Wozniacki, Dominika Cibulkova, Garbiñe Muguruza, and Elina Svitolina. Big names, big wins, but the key thing here is that none of those players have been left-handed. Kerber seems to have played herself into form in Indian Wells, and she's going to offer up a very different test to Andreescu with the angles that she's able to pull off so casually during rallies, and with the way that she's able to run her opponent around, turn the point around when she's in a losing position. While Svitolina is very stable and solid in all departments, in all areas of the court, I don't think Andreescu's quite been tested in that way so far in Indian Wells. And because of that, and because of Kerber's ability on the big stages, because of the way she's come into her own since 2016, my head has been telling me every time I've thought about this video, you have to predict Angelique Kerber to win this match. It's the safe thing to do. Even though Andreescu has really impressed me and definitely seems capable of winning this tournament. My original thought process was, if Bencic makes this final, I'm probably going to predict Bianca Andreescu to win, and if Kerber makes this final, I'm probably going to predict Angelique Kerber to win. Because Kerber has become this consistent force. When she emerged in 2016, she kept her form up for the majority of the year. She dipped in 2017, but she was able to bring herself back in 2018, and now she seems to be recovering from her iffy start to the season. So my head is telling me, Abigail, don't you dare predict Andreescu to win this title. And something else is saying, stuff that. We have no previous head-to-head, these two have never met before, but statistically, based on previous match wins, based on previous history, Kerber is the obvious candidate to win this match. Part of me does think that she will come out on top, and my head is still telling me predict Kerber to win. But if anyone was worth taking a risk on right now, it's this teenager, Bianca Andreescu, who's used her wild card and really made the most of it, who's beaten all these top players so far this year, who's staying in the moment, who has such a vast repertoire and so many things she can do with her game. Last year in Indian Wells, we saw a 20-year-old maiden champion, Naomi Osaka. In my preview and predictions video, I predicted for her to beat Daria Kasatkina in straight sets. It was easier to do that because Osaka absolutely swept Simona Halep aside, I believe, in the semi-finals on the way to that match. Andreescu, on the other hand, was a little unconvincing in some of the later stages of her match with Svitolina. She struggled a bit, but she got the job done. I can draw some parallels between her and Osaka. Osaka had never won a WTA title before she won Indian Wells, but she had been to a WTA final before. Andreescu lost her WTA final to start the year, but she's up with a chance of getting a WTA title now here at Indian Wells. This is becoming the stage where the young players are making their mark, and the young players are on the rise. And while my head is still saying Kerber, my head is also saying if Andreescu wins the first set, she is the more likely to win this match, because we saw that against Svitolina. She got the first set, she went on a wander a bit in the second, but that first set gave her breathing space. I'd say we saw that with Bencic as well when she was playing Pliskova. She won the first set, lost her way a little in the second, and it gave her time to come back and win in 3. And because of that, I am going to take one of the biggest risks I've probably ever taken on this channel. I am going to predict Bianca Andreescu to win this match in 3 sets. So there's my analysis and my prediction. Let me know what you think. Would you agree? Would you disagree? Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss future videos from me. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all my social media. Links are in the description. I am commentating on the Miami Open WTA matches only at the beginning of the tournament, so I will tweet or something and let you know what matches they're going to be, because at the moment I don't know. Should be on WTA TV if you're subscribed there, and maybe elsewhere as well. So I'm off to film an alternative ending for this video in case my prediction is horrendously wrong. Kidding. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.